Hey friends, welcome to the Moms in Real Estate podcast. I'm Kristen, your host, a community builder, an agent, an entrepreneur, and a mom. And this podcast is for moms that are building a business and they're building life, and we're not pretending like we have it all together. I'm so happy you're here. Let's dive into our episode. Hello, Moms in Real Estate. I am here today with my friend Erin Bradley. This is one of those things that I love, is meeting a friend through a friend. And Erin, we were actually connected through, I think, 3 different people. Like, you have to know Erin, you have to know Erin, you have to know Erin. I'm like, okay, I guess I have to know Erin. So I'm so happy you're here. I can't wait for the Moms in Real Estate community to be in connection with you, hear your story, and thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. I just adore you so much. And same here. Like, everyone's like, how do you not know Kristen Cantrell? And then it's like, I feel like I'm also a super fan because I just love everything about you and what you're creating for this community. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it today. This is such a gift.
Heck yeah. Why don't you tell our community, like, who are you and a little bit about your background, and we'll dive into all the things.
Okay, yeah. So in present day, I am the founder of an organization called Pursuing Freedom, which is also the name of a book I published in 2016 and a podcast that I started in 2018. And it was born out of this idea that when we go 100% commission and become self-employed, most of us would say that we're after freedom and flexibility. We're pursuing some freedom. And, interestingly enough, I took the leap and went 100% commission in the mortgage side of the real estate space in 2011, and I promptly fell flat on my face. I was the opposite of Rookie of the Year. Within a year, by the summer of 2008, I'm like riding my bike to a client meeting because I don't have enough money for gas. I'm having my credit card declined for a $2 cup of coffee in front of the client. I mean, total financial rock bottom. And I just remember, asking my dad for advice, and he said, if you think you're going to be good at this someday, just do whatever it takes. And so I opened another credit card and I hired a coach and bought internet leads, whatever that means, in 2008. And I just started plugging away, and it was fine. I literally said to the coaches, I'm desperate. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I felt like I was always mustering up the courage to power through this activity, to get leads, to get deals, to get money, so I could feel safe and theoretically free, right? And this went on for several years until 2011, when I read a book called The Go-Giver. And I'm sure you read it, and I'm sure many listeners have. Yeah, it totally changed my life. So if anyone's listening and you haven't read it, it was a total paradigm shift for me. And I realized that the philosophy of the Go-Giver is that the goal is to be of value even when people don't need your services. So be of value above and beyond what you get paid to do. And as a real estate professional, I thought to myself, our clients only need us every couple years, maybe 3, 5, 7 years. So what does it really mean to be of value when they don't need my services? And I totally reframed the way I was doing business and went out to be a resource. And what ended up happening was my business blew up in 2012. And I went from averaging like 30 some transactions a year, being this hustler and go-getter, to doing nearly 80 transactions, being a go-giver, having fun, being authentic, giving value, and magnetizing so much opportunity. And it was one of those things where I was so grateful, of course, because I was earning way more money than I had ever dreamed of. And it seemed to be happening easily all of a sudden, but I was drowning. And like I said, pregnant with my second child, and she was born in November of 2012. So by the end of that year, I already knew my volume was going to be almost 20 million in volume. And we went to a company dinner, and there were colleagues of mine that were doing 30 million in volume, and their kids were a little older. And I asked them sincerely, like, how are you doing this? I am working 24/7. I'm a slave to my success. I'm miserable, I'm drowning. And they all admitted that after they put their kids to bed, they work until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I came home to my husband and I was like, for the second time, I just don't know if I'm cut out for this. Because I didn't think I was cut out for it with all the antiquated sales tactics that I was following to quote unquote be successful. And now I was, like I said, quote unquote successful on the outside, right? Making good money and feeling lucky, but struggling on the inside. And I just thought to myself, why would I want to grow? Like, why would I want to grow from here if everyone around me that's more successful is working way harder? And so I almost quit the business, actually. And I got advice, don't quit, just get some support, whatever. And so 2013, I remember like trying to shrink my goals. And I see this all the time. Women will play small and say, I'm better off with less because that's too much. And more means more sacrifice. And I tried to shrink and my pipeline dried up again. And I found myself back in debt. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. Like I want to be successful and I want to be present with my family. And there has to be a way. And so I hired more coaches and learned how to scale my business. And luckily, I then found the freedom that we're all after, right? So the freedom to earn an unlimited amount of income and the freedom to do so without compromising the values of presence, which I believe in today's day and age is probably the greatest gift of all. So that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but that's
that
it.
was from how many years was that total until you like was that over, what year did you say you started and what year was it where you were like, okay, like I've figured it out?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it was 2007 when I went 100% commission, right? Fell on my face, then had the success, rode the roller coaster of broke to burnout for a couple years. And then it wasn't until 2014 that I hired my first team member. It was one of my best friends. And we onboarded her and spent a couple months training. And my number one fear, which is everybody's fear, came true. The business dried up because I was training and not, visible, growing the business. And I looked at her, I was like, all right, it's go time. Let me go do what I do best, and applied the same strategy, the go-giver philosophy, the strategy that worked in 2011 and 2012. And we ended up going from 2 closings a month in August of 2014 to 12 closings in December. And I remember thinking, wow, we really just debunked a myth that business is always slow in the winter. And we rolled into 2015 and we had 8 closings in January. I had never had a closing in January in the almost 8 years I had been in the business. Mm-hmm. And so it was this huge eye opener because it just kept growing from there. We more than doubled the business in 2015. And it was this light at the end of the tunnel that I had been my own bottleneck for nearly 8 years because I was so afraid to invest in myself. And frankly, I didn't trust that there was another version of this. And that's the thing about this real estate industry is that it is so pervasive with people that are either surviving their own success and pretending to be fine, giving from an empty well all the time, never fully present, even when they're physically in the same room, or they're playing small because they're afraid of either their own success or their ability to create sustainable growth in the business. And so I felt like an alien for a while there, but in 2015 I found some more coaching and I really found a community of people that had the same desire that we all have, which is, can we have infinite financial abundance and can we be relaxed? Can we experience freedom? Can we be at peace, right? So yeah, it was like 7 or 8 years of that roller coaster before I was like, enough is enough. There's got to be a better way. And there is.
Yeah, and I hope, because we have 3 different type of listeners on Moms in Real Estate. One is like that person that's like, I'm thinking about getting my real estate license. Let's see what it's all about. And I'm so happy for you that you're here listening to this because you've got someone that has a lot of substance, a lot of experience telling you like all of her hardships, right? So I feel like it's just so nice listening in that seat. Then you have somebody who's probably like in the mix of everything thinking like, I'm freaking burnt out and I'm doing all this. I'm successful, right? So I'm making money, but I'm like dying inside. And then you've got somebody who might be like on the other side like you, right? So 8 years is a long time. And I feel like, I feel like actually probably most recently, like in the last year where I just keep having these moments of like, I can't believe just now it's clicking for me, right? Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm turning 40 this month. And all of a sudden there's so many moments where I'm like, how has this not clicked for me so long ago? And I feel like when you were just talking, explaining that, like, you're like, okay, like I figured it out, right? Like all of a sudden it's like you have all this experience, all this substance, and now you're like, I want to share this with people. And you've created such a cool ecosystem to share your 8 years with people and like help them on their pursuit, right? So tell me like, maybe like, especially from the Go Giver, because it is such a great book. And I hate to be like, oh, go read another book to somebody, but go read another book because it's so good, or throw it on when you're, driving or something. But maybe pull out like 2 or 3 key things from that book that really, really changed the trajectory of your business.
Tell me if this is you. You're between a showing and school pickup and you realize you haven't posted on Instagram in 2 weeks. You want to show up online. You've heard it can work, but between the kids, the clients, and everything else, content is always the thing that falls off the list. But when it's working, DMs start flooding in from people saying, I want to work with you. Take it from Elena, a busy mom who sold 8 million from Instagram in 1 year, Katie, who hit 3.5 million in 6 months as a brand new agent, and Lauren, who sold 5 million from Instagram just after 1 year. They all lean on Coffee and Contracts, a marketing membership that gives you the content, the strategy, and a weekly content plan so you never have to figure out what to post. That's the difference between wasting time on leads who ghost and attracting your people even when you're offline. Moms and real estate listeners can try a free week of Coffee and Contracts content. Head to the show notes, click the link, and if you love it, use code MIRE for $20 off your membership.
Yeah, I actually did a training on it this morning for a large real estate company in Colorado, and the reason is that the fundamentals don't change, and it is still the most effective process, in my opinion, in this market even today. And it's the same process that worked every time my business dried up, because it does dry up at times. The markets shift, or babies are born, or you have a sudden tragic loss of a loved one, and the wind gets knocked out of your sails, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, my business dried up and I've got to turn the faucet on again. And this to me is the easiest, most authentic way to do it. And it comes down to one thing, is like, there's a saying that I love, that it's when you step back from the single brush stroke that you can see the entire painting. And I started thinking about the transaction itself was the one brushstroke in the painting of the clients' lives. And so in today's day and age specifically, there's so much noise, and we're in this trust recession of just so much internet marketing and AI. And I really am passionate about helping people stop promoting yourself as your job title. Like, you are not a realtor, you are a resource. And if you're not a resource, then no one's talking about you unless they need your services. And what we want is for people to be talking about us or thinking about us all year long, even when they don't need our services. And what that looks like is understanding that life is still happening. A very small example is like when someone buys a home. I hope that real estate agents and lenders are having conversations with their clients about needing an estate plan to protect that asset now. That's a simple conversation, is did you set up a will or trust? Did you update it when you sold the house, when you bought the house, etc.? And that can lead you to making introductions to an estate attorney. You could be making sure they have a good financial advisor, a good CPA. You might be passionate about real estate investing and helping people learn about that. So you would need property managers and handyman and contractors. And maybe you're a relocation expert and people move to your town. They need health and wellness professionals. They need a dentist, an OBGYN, a pediatrician, right? So as we start thinking like, what else do our clients need? I leveraged my existing community of clients to introduce me to their favorite service providers. And when I found the ones I liked, I was very intentional about proactively promoting these service providers back to my community. And so rather than market myself as this great mortgage lender, like, hopefully you're great at your job, right? I feel like being great at your job is minimum standard, but what more can we do?
Yeah.
And so I was always spotlighting other service providers in my marketing so that people could think of me when they need anything. So for sure they would think of me when they needed my services, right? And it's the same in my coaching community today, is that I did the same. Funny enough, I did the same thing. Like, I started chasing external strategies and trying to figure it all out. And then I realized that, no, I just need to continue to introduce my clients to more resources that are going to help them on their business development journey. So basically, if you're a real estate professional, you're an advisor, the goal would be to help your clients with everything they need on their wealth building journey, because real estate is a piece of wealth building. And if you start to present yourself as that, you create a reputation, a resource, and people will look to you as a thought leader, an advisor, an expert, because you care about more than the transaction. And it's just such an easier way to show up.
It's such a great, like, little mindset shift. If you've been like, oh, I'm only here to help them when they need to buy or sell. It's like, no, just do exactly what Erin said. And all of a sudden, I always say, like, out of sight, out of mind, right? And so it's like, if you're not in front of people and a resource to them, they're going to forget about you, and they're going to meet 10 other agents in between the next time that they actually need your service. So it's like really having this as a plan, and then to create process around it. It's actually fun. Like, that sounds great, right?
Yeah, well, it was really a process of replacing my own insecurity with curiosity.
Yeah.
And instead of worrying like, well, they don't need my services right now. I don't want to bother them. Like, they don't need to buy or sell right now. That's a me problem.
Mm-hmm.
If I can assume they don't need my services and come from a place of curiosity on how to be of value, then why would I hold back? If I really like you, why would I not be in communication with you looking for ways to be a resource to you? There
Yeah.
would be no hesitation, right? And it's like the hesitation is all about whether I'm going to get something out of this or not. And if I can remove my personal agenda from the equation, then all of a sudden that weird, awkward energy goes away completely. And you can show up with like your unfiltered light, your heart and soul, the same version that your friends get, you know?
And you show up as such a different person when you let go of that expectation. Like, it is gross if you think about it. And I'm not saying, like, we're trained to do that. So we've all been there where it's like, I'm doing this to get this. And it's like, no, remove that and just go serve people and do it at a really high level. And the way that you show up is so much more authentic, and you're going to see so many more doors open if you can just like be like, okay, I'm committed to this and doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, obviously we can look at the market and say, yes, it's been a challenging couple of years. And I've been in this coaching space watching so many of my members have their best months ever, their best year ever, and they're having all this growth and momentum and they're having a blast. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what's the difference? And the difference is they're having massive amount of conversations. They're just so curious that they can't stop talking to people, and they're always looking for ways to connect you to somebody else, which leads to more conversation, and that leads to another conversation. And so there's no efforting, there's no striving, there is massive action. It's just infused with a totally different frequency. And so we always say it's like two different frequencies to the same destination. One feels like treading water and paddling hard, and the other one feels like getting on the raft and going for a ride, and it's way more fun, you know?
Yeah, way more fun. And your
Yeah.
I was at a mastermind or a retreat. Sorry, I feel like masterminds, retreats, I've been all over this year. I was in Sedona at a retreat, and we were having a conversation, and all these women were like, I just want like actual connection. Like, it's so important to me, but I'm not having it. And one of the girls, she's a photographer, she's like, I just hate surface level conversations. I hate small talk. And I was like, you hate small talk because you're small talking. Like, when you're out and about, like you're saying, be curious about people. Don't ask stupid questions. Like, ask the right questions that are getting you really good answers and getting you to actually like move beyond surface, right? And I feel like that's, you know, if I'm in line at the grocery store getting coffee, I love to bump into somebody and be like, just curious, like, who are you? Like, I want to know about you, your life. Like, we have a couple minutes here. I'd rather do that than sit and scroll on my phone, right? And I've met so many cool people that way and learned so many different stories and opened up so many doors just being curious and going beyond like, oh, like, what's your name? What do you do? And then, you know, it's just boring. So I think if just reframing too, and like you're saying, just be curious when you're out and about and having these conversations, ask really good questions. Sharon said this at an event I went to one time, and I'm like, it's one of my favorite things to repeat is to be interested, not interesting. And I cannot tell you how many conversations I still have to this day where it's like the person comes up to me and they want to just talk about themselves nonstop. And I'm like, there's no connection here. Like, if you're going to come up to me, like, be interested in me and let's like go deeper that way. And that's the way I'm always trying to engage. Like, if I'm initiating a conversation, this conversation's the goal is for me to really get to know you and you to tell me everything that you're willing to tell me. And I'll get my turn later. And so I think just going about it that way, it's really, really opened up a lot of great conversations for me.
Yeah, similar to that, my mentor, Kathy Heller, once said, the most interesting person in the room is not the most successful or the best dressed or the nicest car. The most interesting or most powerful person in the room is the most loving. And I often say, if you think about the version of you that shows up on your best friend's doorstep on the best day and on the worst day, that's you. That's who you are, your heart and soul. It's the reason people love you. And I think we forget that that is enough to build a successful life in business, because we sometimes filter that light and love with this overthinking, overanalyzing. What am I supposed to say? What are people going to think of me? And we start to kind of dim the light that is within us. And when we can sort of take that work hat off for a minute and just remember who you really are, the loving version of you, and show up as that person in every interaction in your day, you get to find the way to be of value because you're bringing your presence to that interaction. You're not bringing this person who's so preoccupied with being perfect. It's just like, it's a totally different way of being. And it's a magnet. I see it's a magnet, right? And that's why when people go on vacation, their business picks up and it's so annoying.
Yeah, totally. Well, you're a light for people in a dark world. And I just heard a statistic today on a coaching call, and it was like you do, I think it's like 12, you do 12% better just by being around people that are smiling. It was something like that. And I was like, yeah, like you just feel good when you're around people that are in a positive mood and you're going to be more productive. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just thought that was like interesting when they were talking about that today. I'm like, oh, and as she's talking, I was on Zoom. So of course I wasn't smiling. I was like, my RBF face was on, but everyone like instantly smiled when she was talking about it. I was cracking up. Okay, so let's talk about retreats. You and I have something in common. We love to host retreats. I am on a retreat from hosting retreats, but you're hosting one tomorrow in Costa Rica. So what got you into wanting to even like pull a room together in another country? Hey girls, did you know Moms in Real Estate has a referral network? That's right, we do. You guys have to check it out. It's called the Moms in Real Estate Referral Network on mirereferralnetwork.com. And you can search for moms in real estate all across the United States that can be your referral partners. Make sure to check it out now.
It's such a great question. And I genuinely said this morning, I feel like I'm living inside the daydream of my younger self because I was at a real estate conference in 2019 and they had us do vision boards and inside of the notebooks they provided. I have no idea why, but I was drawn to these images of women fully dressed, sitting around a pool, like it looked like a retreat, right? And it was on my vision board going into 2020. Well, we obviously know what happened in 2020. So that kind of vision got tabled. And then fast forward to 2023, I retired my mortgage license at the end of 22 and decided to go all in with full-time coaching, speaking, etc. And I was like, all right, I'm doing this thing. I'm having my first retreat. And it was in December of 2023 in Scottsdale. And I remember going into it, told my husband, I'm going to stay an extra day. I don't know if I'm going to be drained by this from all the peopling and all of the, projecting of energy, or how am I going to like this? I don't know, right? It was insane. It was like I was high on life. Like I found the light of my life is in being in the room, facilitating, like you said, honest conversations with women who just crave an unplug, a disconnect, and a go inward because the answers always lie within. And we're often so busy being the caregiver for everyone in our lives that we forget to take care of ourselves. And it's just such the friendships that form and the depth of conversations and the clarity and the confidence and the collaborations, like I'm obsessed, right? So in 2024, I was like, in my mind, where all the impulse starts, right? I'm thinking I would love to do one in Costa Rica, but I've never been to Costa Rica. So I did another one in Scottsdale at the same resort in 2024, and I'm having my 4th annual at the same resort in December 2026. And in 2025, my son did an internship in Costa Rica for 2 weeks. So I went down there and a girlfriend of mine took me to this resort where we had spa treatments. Turns out, so I'm from Philadelphia, diehard Eagles fan, and the woman who owns the resort is also from Philadelphia. And we had so much in common. And then it turns out they do retreats at this little 7-bedroom resort with a pool and a yoga room and sound bath and live music, and it's in the hills outside of Tamarindo. We're going to be doing surfing lessons one day. It's going to be so fun. I am so excited. I'm hoping. I learned recently it's grammatically incorrect to say first annual, so this is the inaugural Costa Rica retreat, and it only fits 12 women total, myself included. So it's going to be so spectacular. And I mean, it's fully staffed and it's going to be so great. I'm so excited.
I love that. So if somebody's sitting there listening right now and they're like, oh, like I've thought about investing in a retreat, but like I kind of don't know if I should, what would you tell them?
Well, I've been asked before, what do you do when your mindset isn't great, when you get yourself stuck, right? In hesitation, or you could be struggling and be ashamed of the fact that you're struggling, whatever, when you're stuck, what do you do? And I said, I always get in the room with people that remind me of my future, whether it's on a phone
Always.
call, in a Zoom, or in the physical room. But it's wild, Kristen, because even just going on vacation to Costa Rica or anywhere, every time I remove myself from my physical normal, right? Like from my home and my normal routine, that creates a click, like an unlock. There's always some moment of clarity and some kind of movement that happens when I bet on myself and go to the thing. And it's scary to invest in yourself, of course. And sometimes it feels like selfish or reckless, or like there's not enough time. And I'm like, no, there's not enough time to keep hesitating. There's
Yeah.
there's only time to say yes to life, and let life live you, because it does anyway.
It's so true. I love that, and it's so true for me too, where, it's the every time I've put myself in the right rooms, regardless if it's a mastermind, a workshop, a retreat, I mean, I grow so much, and the more that I grow and spend time on myself, the better I show up at my house. Every
Yes.
time that I'm like, I can't afford that, I can't do this, I can't do that, and I'm like, whoa me, I show up like the version of me I don't want to be showing up at home for my kids and my husband. So I think it's so important as you're building a business, like you learn so much about yourself. And we are so lucky in the real estate industry because we have so many different great events, different great people that are leading rooms, so much opportunity. So I'm always like, get yourself in the room.
Yeah, and I started going to these types of conferences and retreats when the kids were very young. And I always had that mom guilt that we all have. And what would happen was I would come back so energized and clear headed. And my husband started to notice that. He was like, every time you go, you get the answers to whatever you've been struggling with. And so after a little while, it was like, go. He just really encouraged me, go. And the way that I've communicated even about my career or the travels to my kids is, I, instead of saying like, yeah, I'm so sorry, I have to leave, and I don't want to leave and all that, I don't want to project that. I tell them, when you're older, I hope you're lucky enough to love your work so much that you get to do these types of things to be the best version of you. And so I hope that we can be an example to our children that anything is possible, and that it's important to bet on you and to create life by design and to have a great time doing it, and that we shouldn't feel guilty because we do become better in the process.
We do. And how cool is it that we are building businesses and our kids are watching us do that? I like literally get so excited when I think about this because, you know, there's so many moms that lose themselves in their kids, and it's like you can't do that because all this, like your connection with them, when they leave your house, I really believe that if you haven't found yourself and you're so lost, it's hard for you to connect with anyone, even your kids. And so I think that pouring into yourself and being excited about building a business and sharing what you're learning with them, I love sharing with my kids everything, like, sound bowls, breath work. Like they know all this crazy stuff that I do, all this stuff about business and all this stuff when I'm working on myself. And what a blessing to them. Like I always think about like, gosh, if I would have known how to do box breath when I was my son's age at 9, when he's feeling all the emotions and I'm able to say, hey, like, just let's take a second and like show him how to breathe. What a great tool to have at that age,
Totally.
and there's a million things I could say that I learn, that I just keep bringing back to them. So I always say, like, when we're building businesses, there is mom guilt, but just remind yourself and give yourself some grace and just remind yourself how cool it is that they get to watch you building this.
Yeah.
If you had to give, one golden nugget to anybody listening on the Moms in Real Estate podcast to wrap it up, what would it be?
I jokingly said from stage recently, none of us are getting out of here alive. So stop hesitating. Stop second guessing. The impulse that you feel that you're called to more is your divine guidance. It is your call, and we're here to expand. We're not here to shrink or play small or second guess. So just say yes to your expansion and notice the hesitation and act anyway, because the confidence comes on the heels of the action.
Yes. So good. All right. Well, we loved having you on. I say we like there's someone behind me, but everybody listening, I know they're going to love you. What is your Instagram handle so they can go follow you?
Yes, connect with me at Pursuing Freedom Official. And I love when I get DMs if you've been listening and there was any takeaway, or just say hello, because literally people will follow me or shoot me a DM, and then I will follow you back, and then I will message you and say, let's jump on a phone call. I love walking in the woods and talking and having conversations. I live in the mountains in Colorado, and I love to like walk and talk or drive and talk. And I love taking conversations from the internet to the real world, because that's where the magic happens, is in the conversations. And I think we're all just kind of craving that connection and real conversation, honesty and support.
Yeah, take her up on it, guys. Definitely. I always suggest that too. Like if you're listening and you're like, man, I really like this Erin chick, go tell her you like her.
Yeah, tell me. I like words of affirmation. That's my love language.
We all want someone to show up in our DMs and say, I listened to you on a podcast and you were freaking amazing. So go make her day. Go do that. And we will see you guys soon. If you like this episode, make sure to like and to subscribe so that we show up in your feed. And if you want to stay close, make sure to check out the show notes, because I have a lot of ways for you to do that.